I still remember the exact moment my father decided I wasn't worthy of the Anderson family legacy. It wasn't when I chose engineering over business school, or when I turned down a cushy management position to work in product development. No, it was the day I suggested that Anderson Electronics needed to innovate or die. The business is for successful children, Dad announced during the family meeting, his voice sharp with disappointment. Those who understand tradition, who respect the way things have always been done. I sat at the massive mahogany conference table, 22 years old and full of ideas about the future of consumer electronics. My siblings, James and Victoria, smirked from their side of the table, already dressed for the executive positions they'd been handed. Dad, I tried one last time spreading out my product designs. The market is changing. If we don't adapt. Enough, Olivia. He didn't even look at my proposals. You clearly don't understand how this business works. Perhaps it's better if you pursue your other interests. By other interests, he meant my passion for actually creating things rather than just selling them. I'd spent years developing new products in my spare time, trying to drag Anderson Electronics into the modern era. But innovation, it seemed, wasn't part of the family tradition. The company has run the same way for 40 years, James declared, adjusting his Rolex. We're the largest electronics retailer in the Midwest. Why fix what isn't broken? Victoria nodded, her designer suit a perfect match for her executive ambitions. Besides, little sister, this is business. Real business. Not your little science projects. Mom sat silently at Dad's right hand, her face a mask of careful neutrality. She'd stopped defending my choices years ago, when it became clear that I wasn't going to fit the Anderson mold. Fine, I said quietly, gathering my designs. I understand. Good, Dad nodded, already turning to James. Now about the quarterly projections. I walked out of that meeting knowing two things. I would never be part of Anderson Electronics, and Anderson Electronics was headed for disaster. That night I sat in my small apartment, surrounded by prototypes and circuit boards. A decade of innovation rejected without a second glance. My phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. Don't worry, we'll find something suitable for you. Maybe in the mail room. I ignored it, focusing instead on my latest project. A revolutionary smart home system that could transform the consumer electronics market. Anderson Electronics could have owned it, could have led the industry into the next generation. Their loss. The next morning I withdrew my entire trust fund. A fraction of what my siblings controlled, but enough to start something new. Dad had always warned us never to touch our trust funds, to let them grow while living on our adequate executive salaries. A true Anderson, he'd lectured, understands the value of old money. Well, I was about to show him the value of new ideas. Within a week I'd leased a small workspace in the industrial district. Within a month I'd assembled a team of brilliant engineers who'd been overlooked by bigger companies. We worked around the clock, fueled by instant noodles and determination, developing prototypes that would make Anderson Electronics' product line look like ancient history. I named the company Phoenix Innovations. Isn't that a bit obvious? My lead engineer Mike asked. Rising from the ashes and all that. I smiled, thinking of the family that had tried to clip my wings. Sometimes obvious is exactly what you need to be. The first year was brutal. While James and Victoria posted photos from business class flights and charity galas, I remortgaged my apartment to make payroll. While they celebrated record profits from selling the same outdated products, I spent nights troubleshooting circuit boards and filing patents. But slowly, surely, Phoenix began to rise. Our first product, a smart home hub that made existing systems look primitive, caught the attention of tech reviewers. Revolutionary, they called it. The future of home automation. I sent a copy of every glowing review to my old email address at Anderson Electronics. They bounced back undelivered. Apparently, they deactivated my account the day after the family meeting. 2 years in, Phoenix Innovations had grown from a team of 5 to 50. We'd moved to proper offices, though I kept my original workbench as a reminder of where we'd started. Our product line expanded, each innovation pushing the boundaries of what consumer electronics could do. And then came the opportunity I'd been waiting for. Turner Electronics is looking to sell, Mike announced one morning, dropping a file on my desk. They're Anderson's biggest competitor in the Midwest, but they're struggling to keep up with market changes. I picked up the file, a plan already forming. Turner Electronics had distribution networks, manufacturing facilities, and most importantly, a loyal customer base tired of Anderson's outdated offerings. What's their asking price? Mike named a figure that would have made me flinch 3 years ago. Now, after Phoenix's success, it was entirely within reach. Make the call, I said. The negotiations were kept quiet, though rumors started circulating in industry circles. I wondered if they'd reached Anderson Electronics yet, if my family had any idea that their cast-off daughter was about to become their biggest threat. I got my answer a week later when James showed up at my office. Nice place, he said, looking around with poorly concealed surprise. Very tech startup. I didn't offer him a seat. What do you want, James? Can't a brother check on his little sister? He tried for a winning smile. We've heard interesting things about Phoenix Innovations. Dad thinks it might be time to discuss bringing you back into the fold. Of course. Now that Phoenix was successful, now that I'd proven my worth, they wanted to absorb my innovations into their outdated empire. Not interested, I said simply. Don't be hasty, he frowned. This is a real opportunity, Olivia. A chance to be part of something bigger. I looked around my office, at the awards for innovation, the framed patents, the prototype of our next breakthrough product. I'm already part of something bigger, I replied. Something I built myself without the Anderson name or the Anderson money. Don't be difficult, he snapped, his facade cracking. This is business. I smiled, thinking of the Turner Electronics deal being finalized at that very moment. You're right, James. This is business. And business is about to get very interesting. He left in a huff, no doubt running back to report my ingratitude to Dad. Let him. In less than 24 hours, Phoenix Innovations would be announced as the new owner of Turner Electronics, and the Anderson family would learn exactly what their unsuccessful daughter was capable of. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong, it's proving yourself right. The morning the Turner Electronics acquisition was announced, I sat in my office watching chaos unfold at Anderson Electronics. Through the industry grapevine, I heard that Dad had called an emergency board meeting. James was apparently raging about betrayal. Victoria had locked herself in her office after seeing Phoenix Innovations' market projections post-merger. Your father's on line 1, my assistant announced, a slight smirk in her voice. I let it ring through to voicemail. 10 minutes later it was Victoria calling. Then James. Then Mom. I watched their names flash on my phone, remembering all the times they'd ignored my calls, dismissed my ideas, treated me like a failure. Finally, a text from Dad. Family emergency meeting. 3 p.m. Attendance mandatory. I replied with 2 words, not family. The tech press was having a field day. Phoenix rises. Industry outsider acquires electronics giant. Anderson cast-off becomes market leader. Family drama leads to corporate shakeup. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Turner Electronics' former CEO. Board approved the final papers. It's done. Congratulations, Ms. Anderson. Or should I say Miss Phoenix? I smiled, thinking of the name I'd chosen for my company. Phoenix Innovations wasn't just about rising from the ashes. It was about building something new from what others had destroyed. At exactly 2:55 p.m., my security team alerted me that the Andersons had arrived in the lobby. Send them up, I instructed. Let's get this over with. They burst into my office like a storm of designer suits and righteous indignation. Dad in the lead, face red with fury. James and Victoria flanking him, trying to look intimidating. Mom trailing behind, wringing her hands. What have you done? Dad demanded. I leaned back in my chair, taking in their disheveled appearance. No perfectly pressed suits today. No carefully curated expressions of executive calm. Business, I replied simply. Isn't that what you always wanted me to understand? By stealing our biggest competitor? James sputtered. By betraying your own family? I raised an eyebrow. Betraying? Like when you all voted to keep me out of the company. Or when you mocked my innovations as science projects. That was different, Victoria cut in. We were protecting the family legacy. No, I corrected her. You were protecting your own positions. Afraid that actual innovation might mean actual work. Dad slammed his hands on my desk. You'll destroy everything we've built. You're already destroying it, I said calmly. Anderson Electronics hasn't released a new product in 5 years. Your market share is dropping. Your customers are looking for innovation and you're still selling the same outdated technology. We have tradition, he insisted. 40 years of what? I interrupted. Of ignoring market changes? Of dismissing new ideas? That's not tradition, Dad. That's stagnation. I stood up, walking to the window that overlooked the city. In the distance I could see the Anderson Electronics building, its dated logo a symbol of everything wrong with their approach. Phoenix Innovations and Turner Electronics will be launching our new product line next quarter, I announced. Smart home systems that make current technology look prehistoric. Integrated solutions that actually solve modern problems. You can't, James whispered. That's our market. Was your market, I corrected him. Now it's open territory. And unlike Anderson Electronics, we actually know how to compete. Victoria's face had gone pale as she scrolled through something on her phone. Our stock is already dropping. Just from the announcement. The market knows innovation when it sees it, I said. Maybe you should have paid more attention to my science projects. What do you want? Dad finally asked, his voice heavy with defeat. Name your price. I turned back to face them, remembering that family meeting where they'd crushed my dreams without a second thought. I want you to remember this moment, I said quietly. Remember that the daughter you dismissed as unsuccessful just became your biggest competition. Remember that the ideas you rejected are about to revolutionize your industry. We could merge, Mom suggested desperately. Join forces. Keep it in the family. I'm not family, remember? I smiled without warmth. I'm just the unsuccessful child who didn't understand business. Just then my assistant buzzed in. Miss Phoenix? The press is waiting in the conference room for your statement about the acquisition. Dad's head snapped up. Phoenix? You don't even use the Anderson name. The Anderson name stands for resistance to change, I replied, gathering my papers. Phoenix stands for innovation, for building something new. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a press conference to attend. Wait, Victoria called as I reached the door. What's going to happen to us? I paused, considering. That depends on you. Anderson Electronics can adapt or die. Your choice. But either way, Phoenix is the future. The press conference was a triumph. I announced not just the Turner acquisition but our entire innovation roadmap. Products that would make Anderson Electronics offerings obsolete within a year. The market responded immediately. Phoenix's stock soared. Anderson's plummeted. Over the next few months, I watched my family's company struggle to catch up. They rushed out half-baked new products, tried to copy our innovations, even attempted to poach our engineers with ridiculous salary offers. Nothing worked. A year later, I sat in my office reviewing quarterly reports when my assistant announced another Anderson visit. This time it was just Dad, looking older and more humbled than I'd ever seen him. The board wants to sell, he said without preamble. To Phoenix. I set down my tablet, studying him carefully. And what do you want? He sighed heavily, sinking into a chair. I want to understand. How did you see it all so clearly? The change is coming, the need for innovation. I didn't just see it, I corrected him. I created it. While you were all protecting tradition, I was building the future. We were wrong, he admitted quietly. About you. About everything. Yes, I agreed. You were. So will you do it? Buy Anderson Electronics. I stood up, walking to my old workbench, still kept in the corner of my office as a reminder. No, I said finally. Anderson Electronics needs to adapt on its own, or it deserves to fail. That's real business, Dad. The kind you never taught us. He nodded slowly, understanding at last. What about James and Victoria? He asked. The company was their whole life. They're welcome to interview for positions at Phoenix, I said. Entry-level, of course. They need to learn the business from the ground up. After he left, I looked out at the city skyline, at the two company logos glowing in the darkness. Anderson Electronics clinging to the past. Phoenix Innovations soaring into the future. Sometimes success isn't about proving your worth to others. It's about proving it to yourself. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying what they built but building something better yourself. James and Victoria did eventually join Phoenix, starting in product development, learning what innovation really means. Dad retired, finally accepting that tradition without progress is just stagnation. Mom started attending our product launches, slowly learning to understand what I'd been trying to tell them all along. Me. I kept innovating, kept pushing boundaries, kept proving that success isn't inherited, it's created. The Anderson name might still stand for tradition, but Phoenix had become synonymous with the future. And in the end, that was the greatest legacy I could have built. Because sometimes the child they reject becomes the leader they must follow. Sometimes the ideas they dismiss become the innovations they can't ignore. And sometimes, just sometimes, being left out of the family business means you get to build something even better than what they tried to protect. The unsuccessful daughter had become the industry's brightest success. And that was a legacy even the Andersons couldn't deny.